we talk about the NBA. Joining me from Philadelphia, where he's there to cover the Sixers playoff series, is Tim Bontemps.
Hello, guys.
Joining me from Dallas, Texas, where they're crying over Luka Doncic's injury, and I don't blame them. It's Van McMahon.
Howdy, partners.
So this Monday, the NBA awards ballots went in. Bontemps and I filed ours. McMahon is banned from filing one. But
Never happens.
Missed that email this year.
But McMahon's opinion is very important. So
and very strong, as always.
We thought he's always strong. We thought we
more
would,
strong and important.
Apparently. So we thought we'd go over what our ballots were. It's always interesting to talk about that. And by the way, our ballots are made public anyway. They're not made public until till the awards come out in late June. So it's not like this is noble. It's just frankly
actually I think the awards are actually going to be done during the playoffs again this year. So I think they'll come out as the awards come out.
Oh, there's no awards show this year. You broke news to me. I
asked the league about it, and I don't know if it's official, but I believe that's what the plan is. So
okay. All right. Well, it's more, I understand why they want to do it, but this is more fun for the fans. Okay. So MVP, this is going to be shocking that I revealed that I voted for Joel Embiid. And Nikola Jokic second, Giannis third.
How'd you fill it out?
All the way to 4-5. Embiid 1, Jokic 2, Giannis 3, Luka 4, Jason Tatum 5. That was also my first team All NBA. Look, I mean, I recognize Jokic had an absolutely breathtaking season. Giannis was tremendous, especially down the stretch. I couldn't find a reason to take Joel off my top line. I had him as my MVP at the second Bontemps straw poll, at the third Bontemps straw poll. As strong as those guys were, I didn't see any reason that he should be demoted. And that was my vote. And I think this year that all three of these guys who are going to get first place votes are worthy. And anybody who, you want to make a case for somebody else, and go ahead, Bontemps, if you want to. I'm not going to argue it.
Can you make a left-hand layup?
In traffic, probably not.
How's your free throws? Because, I mean, your vote doesn't count according to Embiid's trainer unless you can do those two things.
Well, once Embiid's trainer hears that I voted for Embiid, he may reverse course.
Well, if not, he'll help you work on that left-hand layup just to make sure you're those guys.
That's true.
Just to qualify. My ballot, I had Giannis first, Jokic second, Embiid third, Devin Booker fourth, and Luka fifth. Jason Tatum was the one other guy I thought about. I went back and forth on him and Luka. Ultimately with Luka because he's a little more essential to his team. They both were great. And ultimately, to Brian's point, I think all three of these guys, you could easily vote for any of them. I really agonized over it. I didn't really make a decision till the last day, but at the end of the day, Giannis was the East player of the final 6 weeks of March and April. Jokic was the player of the month for March and April in the West. And while Joel was great down the stretch, he just didn't play quite, I thought, to the level that those guys did. And in a couple marquee games where he had a chance to make a signature moment, he didn't. So it was hard to go against him, but ultimately I just thought Giannis edged those guys out.
Yeah, I would have gone Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Luka, Booker. Tatum certainly would be sixth if you went that far. To me, Jokic just like the only we've talked about this before. The only statistical case that Embiid had over Jokic was points per game. Every single metric went to Jokic. The difference in wins was not significant. So I would have gone with Jokic. I can make layups with both hands. I can make free throws with both hands. So I don't know why I don't have a vote. I'm like overqualified apparently.
It's just another ban for you that needs to be rescinded. Maybe someday, maybe next year.
I mean, I could go over the defense here, but I'm not going to argue against.
Yeah, and that's where you look at the defensive metrics, and Jokic's are better, and you're like, Embiid is a dominant defensive force. So you can make a statistical argument for Jokic, but you can't make a real basketball argument for him being a better defensive player.
I will stand on this vote, and you don't get to choose it. You don't get to reevaluate it on June 15th. You don't get to reevaluate it on October 15th. You make your decision on April, whatever it was, April 10th or whatever it was. And on April 10th, I had Embiid, and I stand on it, and I don't regret it. All right. So the other one that was a very challenging one this year, probably the most challenging in my time voting, was Defensive Player of the Year. I struggled with this a lot coming up with my ballot. And so I reached out to a number of NBA coaches and executives. I talked to, I think, 4 NBA head coaches and said, what's your opinion on this? And they were not a help because they were all over it, as they were all over the board as well. So I'm going to tell you how I voted here, but again, this is sort of similar. I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so doesn't deserve it. I voted for Bam Adebayo first. You guys know I'm a believer in Bam. I'm a believer in the Heat. His ability to guard. People talk about guarding 1 through 5. Bam can do that. The Heat were terrific defensively throughout the year. They were the number 1 seed and the most competitive Eastern Conference probably of this generation. I had Marcus Smart second and Rudy Gobert third. Very easily could have had Gobert second and Smart third. Very easily could have had Giannis in there. Could have had others, but that's the way I went. Bontemps?
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. I asked 6 or 7 people in the league, how would you rank Marcus Smart, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Rudy Gobert, Mikal Bridges, and Bam Adebayo, and every single one had a different order. So I went with the order that I was going into that process with, which was Marcus Smart first, Giannis second, and Rudy third. Rudy, I think, is probably the best defensive player over 82 games, as he's proven over the past several years. However, the Jazz were a mess, and they blew a bunch of late big leads, and their defense was in the middle of the pack. So I ended up not putting him up there. Giannis is probably the guy I would pick if I'm going into the playoffs. You're going to pick, you're going to pick one guy to guard people in the playoffs, probably pick Giannis. Their defense was 14th in the league, and while his individual numbers were spectacular, including at the rim, I ultimately didn't just put him at the top, and I put Marcus Smart at the top because he has been sort of the anchor and the emotional leader of the Celtics defense, which, especially over the past few months and over the course of the entire season, was the best defense in the league. And so that was why I ultimately went with Marcus. But yeah, like Bam and Mikal Bridges are both awesome, and they didn't even make my ballot. So this one was very hard to figure out.
Yeah, I would have gone with Gobert just because when you're talking about the best defense players in the league, I think the on-off defensive rating numbers tell, that's a pretty good indicator, and it's an extremely strong indicator for him compared to the rest of the candidates.
Yep.
I probably would have gone Smart second, and I think Jaren Jackson Jr. might have ended up third on my ballot.
He's great
he was
too.
a consideration.
Yeah, and he's a guy who ended up leading the league in block shots and as a starting power forward. So he's out there guarding on the perimeter a lot. I think he has kind of fulfilled that versatile rim protecting, perimeter defending defense potential that people thought he had when he was coming in the draft, and he's stopped being a foul machine. And I think the leap he's made on that end of the floor has been a big part of the Grizzlies story this year.
No question.
The leap he made from November to April was humongous. So coach of the year, I thought this one was relatively easy, although there were a lot of candidates. I went with Monty Williams first, Eric Spoelstra second. You probably could have gone with 5 or 6 different guys second or third, but I went with Taylor Jenkins. I thought, people kept talking all year about the Grizzlies record without Ja Morant as an ode to how the depth of their team and how well they played. Well, I think that's reflective of the coach. So Taylor Jenkins made third. I mean, Monty Williams, I voted for Tom Thibodeau last year and Monty Williams second, and that, ruffled some feathers. The coaches, I think the coaches have a coaches award. They voted Monty as coach of the year last year and again this year. And I know that there was some salt coming out of Phoenix that Monty didn't win it this year, and that this is sort of get back. But the way the Suns play, especially in the clutch, I'd be surprised if he's not the biggest winner of any of the awards here, Bontemps.
Yeah, I had Monty, Spo, and JB Bickerstaff, and I thought Monty and Spo were very clearly 1 and 2 for me. And then there's a half dozen guys you could pick third, just like any other year. So I went with JB, but there's a lot of guys you could choose from.
Yeah, you guys mentioned all the guys that I would have put in consideration. There's a lot of other guys who did great jobs, but I think those were the top 4 candidates there. And Monty, listen, probably should have won it last year, has done an even better job this year, not just in terms of record, but in terms of challenges thrown their way, not the least of which was the owner. as the, in the middle of a massive scandal and didn't shake the Suns at all. The DeAndre Ayton, contract negotiations fizzling, the extension negotiations fizzling, that could have been a problem. It wasn't. And then X's and O's, like, he's was awesome last year and as good, if not better, this year.
Okay. So rookie of the year, this one got really tight. I noticed a lot of my colleagues who were publishing their ballots, a lot of them had, Evan Mobley from the Cavs was, I think, leading throughout most of the season. I noticed strong support for Scotty Barnes and even some Cade Cunningham. And by the way, I thought Cade down the stretch of the season was probably the best of the three. I went with Evan Mobley because it is extraordinarily rare, in my view, for a rookie to impact winning and losing at the defensive end. I think there were two rookies that did this year. One was Herb Jones from the Pelicans and Evan Mobley. And he was a huge factor in why the Cavs are in position. I don't know whether they'll beat the Hawks on Friday, but we're in position to make the playoffs. So I went with Evan Mobley, Barnes, and then Cunningham. Again, you could make a strong case for Barnes here. Cunningham, he didn't, because of the injury, and he had kind of a slow start. I'm not sure he's got the complete case, but even if you went with Cunningham, Bontemps, I wouldn't fight you.
Yeah, I had the same order. Ultimately, Evan Mobley just had a tremendous impact on Cleveland's ability to win games. And they were a dumpster fire team the past few years. And he shows up. And yes, some other things changed there too. But his introduction is a huge part of why that team went from being a dumpster fire to having a chance to make the playoffs tomorrow. And that ultimately was what swayed me to go in his direction. Scotty Barnes has been fantastic. I thought it was neck and neck with them all year. And like you said, if this award's from January 1st on, I think Cade Cunningham probably wins for me. But the first 2 months of the year, he had the ankle injury in training camp. He missed all training camp. He got off to a slow start. So he ends up third. But all three of those guys, I think, are going to be awesome. And I think all three of those teams should be very, very happy.
Yeah, I would have gone Mobley, Cade, Barnes in a redraft. Cade is still the number one player in the class, but he did not have the best rookie year. Mobley from start to finish had the best rookie year. And, Barnes, Cade, you could sway me on that, honestly. I think it was close. Cade finished very strong, but Barnes is a massive part of the team that's right in the middle of these playoff pack.
Yep.
Sixth man of the year, I went with Cam Johnson. Just kidding. I went with Tyler Hero.
Yeah, boy.
Then Cameron Johnson, who had a great year and is going to get paid this offseason. And then Kevin Love, who I never would have thought I'd put in sixth man. Kevin Love played 74 games this year, guys. I'm not sure he played 74 games the last 2 years combined. If he did, it's close. But there were people who would argue that all Hero does is score. Well, he had one of the most prolific scoring seasons for a player off the bench in the 75-year history of the NBA. So I think in addition to Monty Williams, this will be probably the most overwhelming award winner. Tell me I'm wrong, Bontemps.
Yeah, no, I think Hero will win. I voted for Hero. I had Kevin Love second, and I had Tyus Jones third. I went back and forth on a few Grizzlies and Cam Johnson, but I wanted to give the Grizzlies, whose depth has been a huge part of their success, some love. But yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to see what happens with Hero's extension. I would not be exactly enamored with paying him a max or near max deal, but he's had a really nice year for them off the bench. And for a team that doesn't have a lot of half-court offensive creation, he's played a huge role for them. So I think it's deserving.
I'm curious to see what happens with that extension and whether it might be a sign and trade, but that's something we can get into more in the summer. Yeah. Well,
he's not a free agent. They're just extending him. He wouldn't be a free agent for a year.
Yeah, that's true.
But somebody could
trade for him. A wink, wink.
Somebody could also just trade for him and then extend him. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like wink, wink, and trade. It can't officially be a sign and trade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My point is, I could certainly see him being the ticket to another star down there. But all he does is score. Well, cool. So he's scoring a ton of points for the team that's the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. I would say that's sixth man of the year worthy. I do like the Tyus Jones consideration there. The fact that the Grizzlies, I believe, ended up 20-4 without Ja. Well, that's because Tyus Jones stepped in the starting lineup.
Yep.
And was awesome. And his assist to turnover ratio is actually historic. Having said that, I probably would have gotten Love in that third spot. Love is a 6-man of the year candidate. We weren't sure he was going to play 6 seconds this season last summer.
Yeah,
He's been that was a pretty cool story.
He's been great for the Cavs. Been really, really good.
All right. Last one here. Most improved player. Everybody's got a different view of this. In this year's award, I really picked 3 guys who had gone from one level and then elevated up to like superstar or star level. So I had Ja Morant first, Darius Garland, who made a huge leap from like quality role player to all-star, second, and then DeJounte Murray, who I think is in his 5th or 6th season and jumped to all-star level for San Antonio in that order, Bontemps.
Yeah, I had Ja, DeJounte, and Garland. I thought, Garland's numbers definitely got better this year. He definitely took a big step forward. I thought DeJounte's step was bigger, and he also was later in his career, so I think it's a little more notable when a guy does it later on. I thought he was just a monster player, and if he wasn't in San Antonio, I think his season would have got a lot more love. But he's in San Antonio. The Spurs aren't very good, so he kind of flew under the radar. But yeah, I thought I went through it. You could talk about Jordan Poole, you could talk about Miles Bridges, some other guys, but I thought those 3 guys were clearly above everybody else.
Ja Morant has been lobbying for Desmond Bane, so I would have gone with Desmond Bane. I'm not going to vote for you if you say your teammate's more improved than you are. And Desmond Bane did make a massive leap. Now, I know that there's an argument against giving the second year guys, but you can't both say, well, the guy, he's going to fall all the way to the bottom of the first round because he's a 4-year guy, and how much upside is there, and then not recognize, oh wow, this guy got a ton better from year 1 to year 2. Year 1, solid 3-and-D guy. Year 2, bona fide, like not an all-star, but not far from it. And I would say the second best player on the number 2 seed in the West. And when we're talking about Taylor Jenkins, Coach of the Year, development is a huge part of coaching. Desmond Bane played a ton of minutes as a rookie. Usually those guys don't play in summer league. He went and played point guard in summer league because that was the best thing for his development, and it had a lot to do with him making a leap.
All right. Well, we didn't get to the all teams, but maybe we'll do that later time. But always, this was a tough one filling it out. But I know people rip the media and whatever and say why you guys shouldn't be voting. And I agree. It is the best of all the bad scenarios. The players cannot be trusted. Trust me when I say that. Look at what they voted for. It's a mess. The owners and the players don't trust each other. The coaches have all kinds of agendas. The fans, they've had to have the all-star vote pretty much taken away from them. So
Zaza Pachulia
I
would have
agree.
been
It's not a
MVP
good
this year.
situation. We are the best of a bunch of bad options. Sorry, not sorry. Thank you for watching the Hoop Collective. You can hear us full podcasts every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Adios, amigos.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.